The need for a quality education is rising through the world in an increasingly competitive job market. However, many alternative careers have existed in the world which don't require additional qualifications for success. One of those professions being pro wrestling. Many superstars do finish school and get some undergraduate degrees, but there are also a good bit that drop out of school to focus on their pro wrestling career. Xavier Woods might be able to work on a PhD while being a pro wrestler, but many have dropped out as early as their freshman year in school. This is Wrestling Hub, and today we are looking at 15 wrestlers that dropped out of school. R-Truth is one of the most beloved wrestlers in all of WWE. While not a top star, he is a fantastic utility piece that can fit in any storyline, be it the main event or undercard, and he is in his 11th year with the company, and even had a stint in the early 2000s, competing in the exciting hardcore division, and now today he is the champion of the 24/7 division. One of Vince's favorite talents, it is easy to see why Truth is such a fantastic piece to have on your roster. But it could have been extremely different. Truth dropped out of Harding High School at the age of 16 to focus on his music and turned down various colleges that were offering him scholarships for both his talent on the football field and the racetrack. While he did come back and graduate from high school, his college opportunities were left unfulfilled. Gallows and Anderson have been misused almost their entire time in WWE. The team is rumored to leave the company as soon as their contract is expired and signed with AEW. Before Karl Anderson and Luke Gallows became a tag team, and before he became a pro wrestler, Anderson went to Mars Hill College and had a baseball scholarship, but as you can guess, he dropped out to become a pro wrestler. The host of the Firefly Funhouse, Bray Wyatt, can feel like he has been hard done by WWE's booking. While he was one of the coolest characters when he debuted in 2013, his character has slowly weakened over the past few years, and he has not wrestled on TV for almost a year now. He is a former WWE champion and seems to be gaining a lot of momentum on Raw through his current vignettes. Bray is the son of IRS, and his brother Bo Dallas is also part of the roster. Bo had previously mentioned on WWE's network Table for Three that his parents have insisted that they get a college degree before they enter the world of wrestling. Wyatt, however, didn't do that as he dropped out of college with 27 hours short on credits to become a wrestler. Kenny Omega is now recognized by many as the best wrestler in the world, but before signing with AEW, he wrestled around the world trying to build a name for himself. Omega grew up in Canada, where he grew up playing hockey, but he soon stopped as he started getting into wrestling. After graduating from secondary school, he went to university, but he dropped out in his first year because he wanted to become a pro wrestler. AJ Styles spent over a decade in WWE's primary rival company TNA. After leaving TNA, he went to New Japan, where he led the Bullet Club. In the WWE, he has held multiple titles, but before accomplishing all this, he had a rough upbringing. AJ grew up in poverty with an abusive father, but he was still able to graduate from high school in 1996. He would soon leave for university, where he had a wrestling scholarship, but he had to drop out of college to pursue a career in pro wrestling. Becky struggled on the main roster for years before her gimmick as the man propelled her to the top. Lynch is now the top merchandise seller for the WWE and the face of the women's division. Prior to all her wrestling success, she attended university for philosophy, history, and politics. She would find all this boring, which resulted in her dropping out. She only lasted a year in post-secondary school before she started chasing her dreams of becoming a pro wrestler. Dean Ambrose, although he has gone back to being Jon Moxley, is a decorated WWE wrestler. While he might not have gotten everything that he wanted from the promotion, he did do a great job in the 7 years he spent with them. He is a Triple Crown champion and a Grand Slam champion within the company, having also won the Money in the Bank along with multiple individual titles. And he would leave after being upset with his creative direction. Anyone who saw his podcast with Stone Cold knows that Ambrose has been through a lot. He grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, and went through hell. His life was so troubled that he actually started wrestling to separate his two lives. He would drop out of high school due to a lack of motivation and then become a part of the wrestling scene full time. AJ Lee is known as one of the best female wrestlers to have ever been in WWE. Lee had a rough childhood. AJ grew up dealing with bipolar disorder. Along with that, Lee also suffered from homelessness quite a few times in her life, and she had to live in cars, friends' houses, and motels. Even with the adversity, she was still able to graduate from high school, but she would soon drop out of university. She went to university in New York for only 6 months, and this was due to lack of finances. Soon after dropping out, Lee took her talents to the wrestling school. Lita might not be the first women's wrestler in the WWE, and most definitely won't be the last, but she impacted the division more than anyone else at her time. While she was also positioned as a valet and her sex appeal was used to get people like Edge and the Hardy Boys over, her in-ring talent was on par, if not superior, to most of the men on the roster, and definitely most of the women. Her rebel attitude made her a star for all the right reasons. If she came across as a rebel on TV, she sure had that life growing up as well. She didn't have the easiest path to graduating from school, as she kept changing schools, but ended up graduating from high school in Georgia. She would then proceed to major in education studies from Georgia State University, but would end up dropping out because of how similar it was to school. Sometimes pro wrestlers are made from their character and gimmick rather than the amount of titles they won. That is the story of Ted DiBiase, a man who never won the WWE title but was a big star while wrestling for WWE. He was a main event star and was easily the most entertaining performer on the entire roster. DiBiase lived away from his alcoholic mother, living with his grandparents in Arizona. He graduated from a prep school, heading to college on a football scholarship. He definitely seemed inclined on getting a college degree, and he used football to get into the college, but he never managed to complete it. Making it all the way to his senior year, DiBiase got injured and would end up dropping out. Bret Hart is easily one of the most iconic wrestlers in history. Having been around the company from the first boom period, it took Hart a long time to get to the pinnacle, and he would have a sour ending with the WWE after the Montreal Screwjob. His WCW career would end up being a flop, but he is well remembered for his exploits in the ring. Hart is a member of the fraternity of wrestlers that dropped out of school. Even though he is a part of a wrestling family, he did make it to college. He was studying filmmaking at Mount Royal College, where he was also doing amateur wrestling. Amateur wrestling wasn't working out for him, so he dropped out of college. He became a pro wrestler to appease his father, who was upset with him for quitting college and amateur wrestling. The late great Roddy Piper can be considered one of the main reasons as to why wrestling is what it is today. Even though he never won a WWE title, Piper kick-started the initial boom period for wrestling in his rivalry with Hulk Hogan in the mid-80s. He revolutionized the wrestling talk show genre with Piper's Pit, and he was a terrific entertainer, and his passing was mourned by the entire wrestling community. Piper didn't technically drop out of school, but he never completed his high school education. He had a strict family and strict upbringing, and his relationship with his father collapsed after he got expelled from junior high for bringing a switchblade to school. He never went back and never completed his high school education. Ric Flair might be older than anyone else realizes. He has been wrestling for so long that almost every generation of wrestling fans will know him. Even though he hasn't wrestled since 2008 in the WWE, he is easily one of the greatest wrestlers of all time and recognizable by everyone. He's in rap songs now, he was the face of NWA and WCW. Flair may just be a multi-generational star who we might never see anything like again. Flair was born in 1949 and he wrestled until 2008. That says a lot about his longevity. The two-time Hall of Famer, like many other wrestlers on the list, joined college on a football scholarship. He was a terrific player but was a bad student. The stress of exams wasn't something Flair wanted, and he would eventually drop out to do odd jobs. And of course, he would make his way to the ring eventually. He's won multiple titles during his many stints inside the company and is now being rewarded with a Legends contract as well as a post as an NXT trainer in Florida. Michaels got a football scholarship when he was in high school. Texas is a football crazy state, so it made sense for Michaels to try football considering the athletic gifts he has, including being ambidextrous. His story mirrors Flair's, as he too decided that hassles of grades wasn't worth the while and he dropped out and became a wrestler. Like Flair, Michaels is a two-time Hall of Famer, so it's safe to say that he made the right decision. Arguably the biggest pro wrestler in history, Hulk Hogan led the WWE during the rock and wrestling era in the 80s and was one of the main reasons why the Monday Night Wars became one of the most viewed things on TV in the 90s. While controversies have ruined his star power, he is still one of the biggest names in the sport. His reason for not graduating school is similar to that of Lita and R-Truth. Hogan was a gifted bassist and would play in many Florida bands throughout college. He would end up leaving the University of South Florida because college commitments made it hard for him to pursue his musical career. He made the right decision, obviously. And these were 15 wrestlers that dropped out of school. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you later in the next video.